Everybody knows who Antonio Gates is. He was a basketball player who moved to the tight end position in the NFL and became one of the best to ever do it at the position. And when you think of the best tight end of this century of NFL football, he's a guy that is likely going to come to mind. Like father, like son, his kid named Antonio Gates Jr. is an absolute star, was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and has finally made up his mind about where he is going to go to school. Michigan State will have landed a gem in Antonio Gates Jr., and today we're going to talk about who he is, his commitment, and why this is so awesome. But right before we get into that, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel, so be sure to hit that button, as I really appreciate it, and you won't want to miss out on any more college football content. Now let's get started and talk about Antonio Gates Jr. According to 24/7 Sports, Gates Jr. is a 4-star recruit, the number 45 wide receiver, and the 293rd best player in the class of 2022. He came out of Fordson High School in Dearborn, Michigan, and has been seen as a big-time football player for a long time, and that was likely aided because of his dad. Apparently, when he was in middle school, scouts and coaches got their first impression of him, and he was a gifted athlete. He was taller than anyone else as an 8th grader, and everyone said he was more advanced than the other kids at his age. He apparently showed some flashes as a freshman and sophomore, but he didn't put it all together until his junior year, and he looked like a completely different player, and finally blew up on the recruiting scene. A lot of that came because of hard work and dedication, and he blossomed into a 4-star recruit with offers from schools all around the country. At 6'1", 185 pounds, he had more than 20 offers, and he ended up picking the Michigan State Spartans over the likes of Florida, Penn State, and Tennessee. His high school coach had this to say: "He's an explosive receiver who can get in and out his routes and has great ball skills and is just overall a good receiver." Last year, Gates Jr. had 30 catches for 750 yards and 10 touchdowns, and he had 3 interceptions on defense, as he seems to be a guy who can do a little bit of everything. He was offered back in 2020, just a couple months after Mel Tucker took over, but Michigan State was always on his mind, as his dad actually originally was going to go there, but ended up going to Eastern Kentucky for basketball. He ended up taking a self-guided unofficial visit for the spring game in 2021, and then he would take his official visit to Michigan State this past June, when recruits were finally allowed to. From there, he quickly built a relationship with head coach Mel Tucker and the staff, and I guess he finally decided it was time to commit, as he pledged to the Spartans this afternoon. He is known as an elite route runner and a possession wide receiver, and is currently the highest-ranked prospect in Michigan State's 2022 recruiting class. There are 2 other wide receivers committed to the class so far, and currently he is the only 4-star in the class. The guy who will be throwing him the ball is named Katin Houser, as he has recently blown up on the recruiting scene and flipped from Boise State to the Spartans, and is a quarterback to keep an eye on, and those two could have a potential connection down the road, and I'm definitely excited for it. I did a video on Mel Tucker a couple weeks ago, but I was originally skeptical of the hire, and while he did have a couple whiffs on the 2021 recruiting cycle, he has built an army in the transfer portal, taken a ton of former talented players, and has gotten rid of a lot of the players who weren't meant to be at the Big Ten level. Tucker has experience in the NFL, on the Alabama staff, and as a head coach at Colorado, so he's a guy who knows what he's doing, and with his ability to land big-time recruits, Michigan State could take that next step up. Last year, Ricky White played spectacular as a freshman, and Jaden Reed has likely blossomed into an NFL prospect, so Antonio Gates Jr. likely recognized that Michigan State's starting to do well with wide receivers, and wants to stay home and do something big. What do you guys think, though? If you're a Michigan State fan, let me know what you think of Antonio Gates and Mel Tucker. Let me know what topic I should do next, and be sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Before you go, be sure to check out my documentary about Mel Tucker, and I hope to see you guys again soon. But until next time, peace.